Hi, Michelle.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
Good, good.
So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
An introduction of Michelle. He's a graduate from Durham University, and she formerly worked as a maternity nurse across the world. Michelle has always been fascinated by psychology and alternative treatments. And after a hypnotherapy session a few years ago, she decided to retrain as a hypnotherapist. And I have to say, you are the very first hypnotherapist that I met.
Okay.
And so thank you and welcome,
Pleasure to be
And
here.
I like to start by asking you, how does hypnotherapy work? Because I'm pretty sure that it's not I know it's not a very common profession, and maybe a lot of people are just like me, wondering, how does it work?
Really simple. So what we do is we tap into our subconscious mind. Okay, 95% of our lives are driven by our subconscious mind. Okay, and we put someone into deep relaxation. It's very natural, deep relaxation, and then we get to access subconscious, and then we talk with the subconscious. Yeah, so
It sounds very simple. How do you put people in deep relaxation?
okay, so we start off, there's a couple of okay, so there are different methods.
Mm-hmm.
A bit like a guided meditation.
Okay.
And then depending on the person and how they're reacting to it, use sort of guided meditation, muscle relaxation techniques, visual imagery, and breathing exercises. It's very natural. We do this automatically before we go to sleep. So you at that point when you're just about to drop off, and you're sort of aware of what's going on, but you're not really fully clicked in. And then something happens and it gets your attention. That's hypnosis. It's a theta wave state. We just use what you do naturally when you go to sleep, wake up. It's also like, when you're driving a car, have you had that experience? Get there and you go, oh my God, I get there. Yeah. That's what hypnosis is. It's your conscious mind running the show.
So it has nothing to do with what we can see in the movies, with like looking at a pendle, and it's just like a caricature, I guess.
Look at my eyes, all around my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not little Britain at all. There's none of that. I mean, maybe some people do that, but it's really very, very simple. And you're fully aware throughout the whole thing, so it really is very simple, guided visual imagery, musculation technique, and you don't have to be asleep. I think people think that they're going to go into this deep, deep sleep and they're not going to be aware of anything. And that, you're fully aware of what's going around you. It's a bit like being a little fuzzy. You can hear it, you can sense it, you can react if you want, but there's a little bit of a wall between and what's going on around you.
Yeah. So again, it's nothing to do with the movies where you're not in control of anything. So
no, nothing like the stage hypnotist where it's like they've got you clicking like chickens and things. People who do that, who go up on stage to do that, they've signed up for that. They are fully aware of what's going on. It's nothing like that at all. You're in control. I can't make someone tell me what they don't want to tell me. I can't make them do things that they don't want to do. And in actual fact, therapy, I didn't think it was working. The dialogue in my brain was literally going, well, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. And I did a visual imagery of the Coca-Cola poison, and it literally, this isn't working, this isn't working. Where did that come from? So when you are in a really deep state of hypnosis, or just a very light one, it works just the same. So you are not going to be clicking like chickens and pendulum in front of the eyes and, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying this. That's just literally the movies, and in real life, it's nothing like that. And it seems like you can actually do it online. You don't have to be like in the same room to be able to have hypnotherapy sessions?
No, I do all of my sessions online because of
Okay.
COVID. I do all of my sessions online, and it works just as well. You know,
Okay.
I have a laptop just in front of them, and I can see them. I can check how relaxed they are, and we just go through the full session as if you were there with me. Just relaxed, easy, natural. It's actually a very natural process.
And how long does a typical session last for?
Well, with me, it's about 90 minutes because I do quite an in-depth session. So depending again on the client, I don't just focus on putting positive suggestions in. I do a bit of regression and find root cause, because there's normally a component of emotional issue with whatever it is you're wanting to get rid of. You know, our subconscious mind at some point has decided that this is an abnormal. Problem is, our lives go on and it's no longer of interest, and our subconscious mind hasn't got the memo. It's still working on these old programs. So I go in, find the emotional root of it, we reframe that, then we put positive suggestions. And if it's a physical thing, then we do a bit of command cell therapy, healing vortex, and then move on to the final positive suggestions and the recording that you take home.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So now I'd be more specifically interested about, you know, how hypnotherapy can help with menopause, because that's basically what I do.
Yeah.
I'm all about helping women over 40, sometimes a bit before 40, helping them deal with their menopause symptom in a holistic way, which means like without medication or HRT if they can. And so I'm looking at a whole lot of other, you know, alternative therapy that do work. And you've shared with me that actually hypnotherapy can help with menopause. So could you tell us a bit more about that? How does it help with menopause symptoms?
So we can actually alter the way our genes are expressed. So there's a whole bunch of research you've heard about genetics. Now, mind can control how our genes are expressed. So we can actually control how we are experiencing symptoms. You know, so whether it's hot flashes, whether it's restless leg syndrome, night sweat, putting on weight, bloating, low sex drive, whatever physical symptoms are, we can actually address that through hypnotherapy, and we can get your subconscious mind to stop expressing. And then we can also look at the emotional element to it, because often we've grown up with the notions of what menopause is. You know, we'll have seen our mums, our grandparents, this in a very different way to how we are wanting to do it now. And so our subconscious mind is these experiences that have gone before us, and they're proving, you know, in our mind, this is what the menopause is going to be. You know, 30% of women don't experience symptoms. So, you know, so we can actually look at that positive, and we can find what I do through hypnotherapy, find the emotional component, what programming has led you to believe you're going to experience menopause in a certain way. Then I also reprogram at cellular levels, so stop experiencing menopause symptoms in the same way. So two-pronged approach. Very effective. Yeah. And then of course,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
No, you wanted to add something, so please do.
Of course, there's the whole thing, you know, about what you do afterwards. So it's that, like you think, holistic thing. It's about programming someone so they're going to eat better, so they can get a nutritionist, and then programmed to follow the guidelines they're given. You know, setting up with good habits so that they're going to follow the program. They're going to want to do the exercise. They're going to want to, you know, they increase their libido. It's using those habits and setting them up in a positive way so that they can take on all the other aspects that they take on for the positive.
Okay, and I mean, you've mentioned that hypnotherapy can help with physical symptoms and and more of the mental symptoms. Are there any specific symptom that it helps particularly well, or does it work with all the symptoms? I want to say available, but it's not available.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, all the symptoms that are experienced, unfortunately.
Yes, it can. There really isn't anything that we can't tap into. There really isn't anything we can't address, because our mind controls everything. You know, our subconscious mind is a million times more effective than our conscious mind, and it's running the show 95%. So when we tap into the subconscious mind, we can deal with anything that we need to deal with. And a lot of it is about good habits. So they're going to eat properly, they're going to follow the nutritional exercise, just feel better in themselves when they do that.
And so how many sessions would you say someone would need to help with their symptoms? I mean, I bet it's pretty much like nutrition. You can't really say in advance, but I can be pretty sure that, you know, for me, they'd need at least 3 sessions. You know, the first one, you kind of understand what's going on, and then you give them a plan. The second session, you see if things worked, and then you've got the third session where, you know, you're tweaking and then so on. So 3 sessions, I would say, is the minimum for me as a nutritionist. What about you? Do you have a minimum session where you can kind of guarantee some results, or how would you typically work?
So it really depends on the individual. You know, it can happen in one session. You know, it can happen in one session. So it might be that someone is just having very mild symptoms. It might be that it's really just an emotional component. And so with the emotional aspect of it, it's a very small matter of dealing with the physical. On average, I would say 3 sessions, but I've never had to do it, and I've had it, you know, work in a single session. So you know, between, like you say, between 1 and 3 sessions.
So does it depend on how deep the issue is, or does it depend on the person in general?
Depends on, yeah, you know what it's like. It depends on everyone, how willing they are to take it on board. I give some personalized recording that's about 15 minutes after the session, and they need to listen to that for a minimum of 20. But you know, this is funny because you'll probably have seen this, that the latest research is that habits aren't 21 the way it can take between 18 and 254 days. So that's huge.
Yes.
That's huge. So what I tend to do is I check in with them after a month, and then I see how they're getting on, and then we adjust. But it depends on their commitment. It depends on, they might have emotional issues that they need to work on, that might take a couple of sessions. It really just does depend, and that's why I think I like your approach as well, just because it's very bespoke. You know, it's not just a one-size-fits-all solution. You know, it's one session. I'm not going to tell them free, but equally, I'm not going to promise them 1 session and then go bye. So between 1 and 3 sessions is about that.
Understood. Would you be, I mean, obviously your sessions are confidential, so I'm asking you this question, but I don't know if you can answer, but would you be able to share, you know, an example of how you've worked with someone with menopause symptoms and how she reacted and went on, or is it like completely as I say, confidential? Because you know, I really respect confidentiality. It's very important for me, so I would totally understand.
I've got permission to explain in a broad stroke of things.
Okay.
I was doing a session, my first ever menopause session, and she had, you know, just the typical symptoms. So she was feeling fatigued, exhausted, you know, hot flashes, just generally feeling not fantastic. So we did a session, and we did 2 sessions. We did the first session was I did something called command cell therapy. So it was directly to the cells, which sounds a bit kooky, but there's a lot of science, good rigorous science from Stanford University, you know, Wisconsin University, you know, there's some good research behind it. And so we did the command cell therapy, and we told her the symptoms. And then she experienced about 2 weeks, things got worse, which she would expect because it was, you know, getting things to speed up. And then after
sorry, I wanted to say this is incredible because it's a bit like nutrition. You know, you change some things,
yeah,
and sometimes it gets worse before it gets better, and the worst time is usually 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how burdened your body can be. This is incredible. It's very, very similar in a way, yes, if I can say that.
But you know, the body's so responsive. It is absolutely, it wants to get back to its optimal state. You know, it wants to. And once the environment to do that, whether that's mental or physical, it works really hard to do that. And then after the 2 weeks, the symptoms, just within a month, the symptoms were so greatly improved. We did one more session and then that was it. So it's amazing, but the body does want to get back to that optimal.
If you give your body, a body, the opportunity to move back to its natural balance, it will definitely get back to where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So. Amazing.
Okay, thank you for that. Do you know why people would not be interested in hypnotherapy? Because personally, I didn't know about hypnotherapy. I only knew about from the movie, but you know, since I've met you, I realize it's pretty real and it's working. So do you have your own opinion on why, you know, people would not? I mean, it's not a profession that is more advertised and do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
More people would naturally go to hypnotherapy because with menopause they would go to nutrition, they would go to acupuncture, they would go to CBT. They would go obviously to the GP to get HRT, but you know, there is so much more than that. So would you have some elements of answers to these questions?
Well, I think it's because people really aren't understanding the mind-body connection. You know, we have, since the 17th century, Descartes sort of brought out this whole separation of mind and body. We've grown up in this environment. I actually used to do science, so science was a thing. Yeah? So we've grown this whole notion that the body is a functioning machine, and the mind, you know, and so this notion that our mind can impact on a physical level, it's really not part of our collective consciousness that is at the moment. You know, there are great people like Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Layli. She's, you know, there's these great researchers that are showing good science on this, but it's still considered a bit, you know, that if it's a physical symptom, it has a physical solution. So I think that's why, and also answered it, you know, this notion of hypnotherapy in the movies, you know, Little Britain, look around the eyes, you know, this right. So this whole thing makes it quite mystical, and it's actually quite scientific because there are rules and the mind works in very particular ways. And you know, we follow those rules to get the optimal results. You know, they change with different people, but the rules are always the same. And so I think people have this notion that it's a bit woo-woo. And again,
that's all because of the movies. We can definitely blame them for the lack of trust in hypnotherapy. That's such a shame. What did you learn about hypnotherapy that you wish you knew before?
That it's so natural. That we do this ourselves every day. And that it is so...
Do you mean you could do hypnotherapy on yourself?
You can do hypnotherapy on yourself.
Really?
Yeah, you can.
Wow.
I think, you know, when you're doing mantras, it's like a little form of hypnotherapy. You know, you can actually put yourself into a deep, relaxed state and do this. And I think it's a great way of topping up. You know, if you want to get to the root of a problem and what have you, then I don't think anything compares to having a session. But you can do personalized therapy on yourself. It's actually not that hard. And you can decompress and to manage stress levels. You know, because you're a nutritionist, you know about the role of stress in the body and that yourself. Yeah. And also what I understand was how effective it was. You know, I had 2 years of counselling, and counselling is great. And look, I'm not here to knock any of the therapy. Therapy has its place, right? But for me, it was very goal oriented. I wanted an outcome, you know, I wanted to fix a problem and I wanted an outcome. And 2 years later, you know, I love my sessions, and I, as you can probably gather, I love talking. It didn't fix it. And I had one hypnotherapy session. That was it. It was done. Yeah. And the results are actually 2006, I think it was, PhD doctor did different forms of therapy, and hypnotherapy took on average 6 sessions, and it was 90. Cognitive behavioral therapy was next, and it was 22 sessions, and it was 72% effective. And psychoanalysis took on average 600 sessions.
Yeah, I know, this psychoanalysis is just your life, a lifetime.
Yeah. I wished I'd known how effective it was, how much time I would have saved and money.
Yeah. Because it works on anything. You're just like me. You're specializing in menopause. Could you share us why?
Well, I went through menopause myself, or what? So so last year I was 47, and I started experiencing severe night sweats. I was every morning. I was having to change my pajamas of the night. You know? They were quite severe, and they went on for about. And then at the same time, when I started telling my friends, like, oh my, I think this is happening, and we all have different symptoms, and it impacted us all very differently. You know, one of my friends was really upset about how she felt that impacted on her and her fertility. One of my friends was just chronically tired, and I actually get quite tired myself. And so I started to look into it, and I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way than this. There's got to be a better way. So I started trialing it on and got good results. So that was it, you know. I think, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. So, you know, when you have a problem, you try and. That was it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with you. That's why also I specialize in menopause.
Right.
Now I'd like to ask you 3 questions that may or may not be related to hypnotherapy or menopause, if you don't mind. The first one is it's more about, you know, knowing about life and what works for you, or what you found out, learn about, you know, things. So the first question is, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently? Obviously, it's a very open question. It could be about anything. It's just, I think sometimes it's good to ask questions in every direction and discover something. So that's why I'm asking that.
Yeah. Well, I would have realized mind-body connection. I had eating disorders, and I didn't realize that I had ADHD, you know. So because I did well at school and I wasn't disruptive, and back then in the 70s, I wished I had known about the ADHD before now, because it allowed me to just make so many positive changes in my life and forgive myself. You know, when certain things happen, like it was the 10th time, instead of beating myself up, I just thought, that's just how my mind works. That's just the way my mind processes things. I don't have, oh well, c'est la vie, you know. So knowing that now, I had known that then, and being able to, well, you know, to take that into account, you know, and to really make things easier for me and forgive myself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing. My second question is, what is the best tip you could give our listeners?
Relaxation. Okay. So really focusing, we are living in a society where the more you do, the more you are hailed as a success. And it really doesn't have to be like that. And I think we're really paying the price of that, because when we go through menopause, stress hormones really have a significant impact on how we experience menopause. You know, so I think it's really important for people to take out the stigma of rest and to listen to their body, and to realize actually this is a necessity. You know, I really do need to rest my mind, I need to rest my body, and that will have a positive impact on all areas of life. Just, you know, you've got 3 kids and a husband and a job, close that door, put yourself away for 15 minutes and just listen to some music, just switch off, because it is so important to rest.
Okay, thank you very much for this tip.
That's okay.
And the last question, so it's more related to menopause now. Okay. It's, who do you think I should interview next? Or who do you think I should interview with, you know, being related to menopause?
Oh, there are so many good accounts out there.
I know. But if you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one, I would probably say Mindful Menopause. She is, she's bringing out a book, and forgive me if I don't know her name, it's awful. But I like her account. She's very much linked on the mind connection. So be a great person to interview.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just going to thank you for answering all my questions. That's amazing.
I am actually working on a program. But I'm not ready. It's in the testing stage. But for now, just if people want to have a discovery call with me, do those 20 minutes free of charge. They contact me through my Instagram. The website is being built because of this new program that I'm launching. So everything's under construction. So they can contact me directly on Instagram, and we can book a call, and then we can see how I can help with menopause or anything else they want to have hypnotherapy for.
Okay, wonderful. Could you share your handle, because I know what it is, but it's best that you say it.
So it's at Michelle Baldwin Hypnotherapy. So that's MICHELLEBALDWIN, and then hypnotherapy. Okay,
wonderful. Thank you so much. So for me, this is the end. Is there anything you would like to add to this?
No, just this has been really great. I was very nervous, and I turned that into excitement, and you've been a great host. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Severine. Take care.
Bye.